Great. Well, welcome to the GreenSpot, Columbus GreenSpot Conversations. It's a webinar series that was created by our GreenSpot Advisory Board, and it delves into the different aspects of sustainability. And we really do have a number of these planned. We've already, I think we've completed about 5 or 6 of them that are available up on our Facebook page and our website. And we're looking to do another 6 to 7 in the next month. So please join us for those if you're not aware of them already. We will be posting this up on social media when we are done recording. And if you're wondering about it, you can always become a GreenSpot member. It's easy to join. And before I get to that even, when we think about sustainability at the city, we really think about it kind of like a three-legged approach. And that is looking at environment, looking at the economy, and looking at people or equity. And when you have all those 3 things going forward, then you really do have sustainability. So that's what we try to focus our work on. With GreenSpot, I know everybody is a GreenSpot member, but in case you're not, GreenSpot is a program the city started to encourage, inspire, educate, and recognize households and businesses that adopt sustainable practices. It's part of Mayor Ginther's Sustainable Columbus 2030 agenda. I won't read that whole slide to you because you can read it there, but I do want to highlight, we do want to be carbon neutral by 2050, and we do want to be 100% renewable energy provided by community aggregation, which we're on track to meet that goal already. And you can kind of see with GreenSpot, we want to up our numbers and up our engagement. This is a little bit, we have over 22,000 GreenSpot members right now, mainly in Columbus. We have some GreenSpot neighborhoods, and yeah, you can just kind of see the numbers there. And more numbers to throw at you. This is kind of the collective savings that our membership has seen. These are very conservative numbers because this is only really what's being reported. We know they're doing a lot more that they're not reporting, but it does have an impact when you have 21,000 people doing the same green activity. All right, so with that, I do want to introduce today's topic, which is solar panels and your house. Solar has really gained steam over the last few years, and there's a lot of activity going on now, especially in Columbus, around it. And today we will hear from Brian Will, who is a homeowner who had solar installed recently on his house. And we'll also hear from Samantha Ritchie, who is the City of Columbus's energy manager, on some of the programs the city is doing. So with that, Brian, I'm going to turn it over to you. Just let me know when you want to advance the slides. Make sure you're off mute. And I guess tell us a little bit about what made you go solar?
So I went through the GreenSpot training program several years ago, and since then I've been really committed to achieving carbon neutrality in my home. And I was one of those folks who was kind of skeptical about putting solar on my house. I thought maybe they wouldn't look so great, wasn't sure that the investment would be worth it, worried about whether it would affect the home's value if I decided to sell at some point. But I decided last fall to go ahead and install solar panels because of my desire to help the environment in particular. I have a lot of concern about wildlife and protecting wildlife, and I think what's happening with global warming and the climate emergency, it's just essential we do everything we can to help Mother Nature and protect human and wildlife. So with that, would you mind going to the next slide, David? So what I'll say is, this is a picture of my house. This picture is actually rendering that Blue Raven Solar did when I decided to install panels. And I decided to do a 67% installation, meaning that I didn't necessarily want to cover 100% of my electricity use, primarily because I was worried about aesthetics of the solar panels. And not many people in my neighborhood, nobody in my neighborhood had solar panels a year ago. And so if you look to the right of this picture, that's the front of my house, and the back is where the solar panels were installed. So I have a total of 9 panels, 6 in the rear of the house, and then 3 on a dormer. And the panels are not visible from the street. And the 67% installation since about March has been about covering 100% of my energy use. Because one of the things I've learned is how to reduce energy use in the house. And then the solar panels are just doing such a fabulous job that my energy bills are virtually nothing, really since March. My total investment in the project was $10,600, but I receive a 26% federal tax rebate as part of that investment. And with the energy reductions, I expect to cover the cost of my installation project within 10 years. What I would say is if you are worried about the environment, if you're worried about your electricity values, your cost of your spending on electricity and the home value, then solar is worth it. People will tell you, realtors will tell you that adding solar panels to your house, if they're done well, will add value to your house, sometimes as much as 10% of the value of your house as a result of installing solar panels. I'm saving lots of money. I feel good, feel much better about using electricity because when I am using it, I'm using clean power for the most part. Even on somewhat cloudy days, I'm still getting energy production. And the biggest thing for me is I'm helping the environment by not using electricity that might have been generated from coal power. One of the great advantages for me was the net metering program, where with AEP, the energy that my panels produce, whatever I don't use in my house, goes up to the grid. And other people in the community can benefit from me producing clean energy. And as a result, my bills are less. If there happens to be a month where I'm using more electricity, maybe it's a cloudy month like January, usually it's pretty cloudy, I still get credit for all that power I sent to the grid in the previous 12 months, and it will help keep my bills low, even in cloudy months like January and February. During the months of March, when the sun starts to come out, there's no leaves on the trees, my panels took off, and I went from producing maybe 3 to 5 kilowatts per day. And now I'm producing, yesterday it was a nice sunny day, produced 15 kilowatts of power. So my bill this month is expected to be $30, where a year ago I paid $100 in electricity. What I would tell you, if you're getting panels installed, when you start working with potential providers, suppliers, installers, and there's plenty here in this market, is be sure to ask about a warranty. My warranty is a 10-year warranty on the installation and 25 years on the panels themselves. The panels should last at least 30 years, they tell me. And then also make sure your installer is licensed and bonded. In terms of sizing the system, what I would tell you is most people go for 100% of their electricity use. What they expect to spend, what they expect to use in electricity. I did a 67% project, and that's fine. Some people do 50% projects. Really depends on what type of electricity use you expect. My neighbor just put panels on their house because they bought an electric car. They bought a Tesla, and they're going to save a lot of money as a result of using their own solar power versus pulling power from the grid for their electric car. Be sure you ask your installer about the installation process, what that looks like. One of the things that was a surprise to me is after my project was done, there was a big piece of conduit on the back of the house going up to the roof that I wasn't aware was going to be there. So be sure you ask those questions before the installation. What are they going to put on the house? Where are they going to put your new panel? And other thing I would say is make sure you get a critter guard. Here in Columbus, we have lots of squirrels. And Blue Raven told me, oh, you don't have to worry about a critter guard because the squirrels can't get under the panels. They're too thin. But squirrels can get very small. And I saw a mother carrying her babies up and putting them under the panels in April and May. And they have since moved out. It's probably getting too hot for them. But Blue Raven is coming back and installing a critter guard. It costs less than $300 to put that on. And make sure it goes all the way around your panels because you don't want squirrels under the panels chewing on your wires. So that was a tip that I learned after the fact. I've been very, very pleased with the system, and I'm happy because not only am I saving money, but I really feel I'm doing something to achieve carbon neutrality in my home. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Dave.
Thanks, Brian. Actually, one of my questions, and you've already answered it, was how do your neighbors feel about this? But it sounds like you're kind of leading the way if your one neighbor is now installed solar themselves.
Yeah. I put up a little sign in my yard. Blue Raven actually put a sign in my yard about installing solar panels, and nobody knew they were there for the most part, except the neighbors that live right next door on the south side of the house. That's where the panels go. They face the south, and the panels are so sleek, and they actually look kind of beautiful. They're all black. They're really sleek, and they look attractive. Nobody at all has complained about them, and if anything, I think people are curious and interested in investing in their own solar panels.
That's great. If does anybody have any questions, go ahead and type it into the chat feature. We'll give you a second to do that. You know, one thing about solar that I really like, I heard, uh, I heard somebody say this and I've repeated it, but that why not let the sun pay for your energy use? And it
Right.
just really kind of clicked with me, like, yeah, that's a really good idea. And of course, like whether you have solar or not, you can use the sun to dry your clothes in the
Yes,
hot days of of summer. I mean, a couple of
I
years ago,
do
I
that.
remember it was like 90 some degrees. I was doing laundry and I was sitting upstairs. I'm like, why am I running the dryer when it's like 90 degrees out there? So I just put the stuff in the backyard and it like dried within probably about 15 minutes. So
Yeah, you don't use an oven on a hot day. That's the other
yeah,
thing. Why make a pizza in the middle of summer? I save those for the winter. Looks
right.
like a couple questions came in, Dave.
Yeah, it looks like somebody would like to know how the program you use to gain the tax benefits.
Well, that's automatic. The contractor should send you a document after your installation is completed. My project went live December 15th, so I got the notification from Blue Raven maybe February on the document. And then when I did my taxes, you take off the deduction. My rebate will carry over into next year. We'll still have more credit due to me next year. So that's automatic. Usually you should ask the contractor about it, but they'll send you documentation. And it's automatic. It's 26% rebate tax credit basically through 2022.
And do you have battery storage?
No, I don't. Some people do, um, but I do not. It costs you a lot more money if you put batteries on your power solar grid and your solar panels rather. Most of the people I know around here do not have batteries. The other thing I should mention is that because you're sending power to the grid, if there's ever a power outage, like in a storm, automatically your panels will shut down because if workers are out on those lines trying to repair those lines and you're still sending power to the grid, they could be electrocuted. So that happens automatically. The system shuts down if the power goes out in the house.
Now, are you able to add batteries at a later date if you decide to?
Yeah, you can. Some people want them, want batteries. And the thing with batteries, if there is a power outage, then you can continue to generate power through your battery and have power for the house. Like I said, I think some people do get batteries, but they do add a lot of cost. And I did not do a battery.
Gotcha. Well, great. Well, thank you, Brian. This has been really
Sure.
helpful. And it kind of leads us into our next speaker, which is Samantha Ritchie, who's the city's energy manager. Uh, Samantha, if you'd like to unmute yourself and let me know when you want me to advance the slides and take it away.
All right, thanks, Dave. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I'm happy to be here talking to you all today, telling you about the co-op that we have going on right now. Dave already touched on some of the City of Columbus sustainability goals, but there have been many. The first that I was aware of go back to 2016. I've only been with the city since 2019, but we're certainly ramping up our greenhouse gas reduction strategies in our attempt to reduce both out in the community as well as our own internal municipal operations. We're currently developing a climate action plan, which should be complete at the end of this year. So there will be even more initiatives coming out of that. So you may also be familiar that we are participating in the American Cities Climate Challenge, and we were a Bloomberg Philanthropies grant recipient, which really helped us to kind of springboard this work. So we have a lot of new programs that have started since 2016, And most of the items that I'm working on are new as of 2020 and even 2021. So we're really just ramping up, and there will be even more to come. Next slide. Thanks. So I wanted to give you just a little flavor of some of the initiatives that we have right now. Some of these you may have heard of. We do have a benchmarking ordinance for utility data tracking and disclosure, and that's applying to commercial properties over 100,000 square feet. That's new as of this year. That passed City Council in 2019. Some of you may also be familiar with the Clean Energy Columbus campaign for community aggregation. That is new. The first electrons started flowing in June, so current as of this month. We're partnering with Traybell, AEP Energy, and Impact Community Action to bring 100% renewable energy to AEP Ohio customers that live within the city of Columbus, unless you opt out of the program. And then finally today, the most important one for our discussion is the Solarize campaign that we have going on right now. We kicked it off back in April, and we're partnering with Solar United Neighbors to have an educational campaign and also a purchasing co-op for anybody who would like to move forward and buy in bulk with their neighbors to get the best possible pricing. Internally, we have a lot of items going on. We have a comprehensive energy management plan, which aims to reduce municipal energy building consumption 40% by 2030. So we have a number of partners, a number of initiatives internal to the city and external. All of these are fairly new. So there's a lot going on. Next slide. So why are we hosting a solar co-op? Basically, there isn't as much solar coming online or existing in the city as what we would have expected to see based on the rising cost of electricity and the decreasing costs to install solar PV. For a city the size of Columbus with the population and therefore available rooftop space and even ground mount space that's around, we just aren't seeing what we would expect, and it's not increasing as much as we would like it, as much as we would like to see it. So we thought, okay, maybe we need to look into why aren't we seeing the numbers and why aren't more people doing this? And really what it came down to was there are a lot of considerations when you're developing your own project, and it's a lot for a homeowner to take on. And the pricing is really kind of difficult to unravel. How do we make people feel comfortable that they're getting good answers to all the questions that are concerned with developing a project? And how do we make people feel confident that they're getting the very best price? So that's where Solar United Neighbors comes in. They're not-for-profit, and they run these educational co-ops all over the country. They've done quite a bit of work already in the state of Ohio, and they have previously hosted a co-op in the city of Columbus. But we thought partnering with Solar United Neighbors would be a good way to kind of lend credibility to the effort. Some people feel more comfortable knowing that the city is sponsoring a program, and it's not just another salesperson, and it's not a scam. So that's kind of why the city decided to join up with them. Next slide. Thanks, Dave. So here are some of the areas that Solar United Neighbors supports for the participants in the co-op, and I'm participating. My husband and I are in the process of building a garage, and we would like to put some panels in the garage. Unfortunately, the project is taking a little bit longer than anticipated, so I might have to catch it next time around. Solar United Neighbors does offer support in case you're not interested or you're not quite ready at this point to join. They have a lot of really great materials on their website, and you can go solar alone. So that's also an option if you're not a joiner. That's still a possibility. So the first thing that they'll do is take a look at your site. They'll just use some basic satellite imagery to decide if solar PV is even viable. You know, if your property is covered by a 200-year-old oak tree and you're not getting a lot of sunshine, then it's probably not the best situation. And they're going to tell you that so that we don't waste your time right from the very beginning. So when you initially sign up and put in your address, they'll do a cursory review and just see if you've got some good rooftop or ground mount space available. They'll also work with you to figure out how to best size a system for your property. You could size it similar to how Brian had, 67%. Some people may want to size it at 100%, and maybe they have an electric vehicle and they want to add a battery system. So what are you trying to get out of your project, and what kind of financials are you looking to achieve is going to go into determining the sizing of the system. If you have south facing roof, that is of course ideal, but it works just as well on east and west facing roof. And that's something that I didn't understand previously, which works very well for my particular situation with the slope of my new garage roof. They'll also work with specific determination of financials. So you know that they're being calculated based on your actual utility bill and your actual AEP Ohio costs or Division of Power costs. This program is open to City Power customers as well as AEP Ohio customers. Unfortunately, Division of Power right now does not have an available net metering rate, meaning that if the meter would be spinning backwards, you don't get the credit right now, but that is something that they're working to develop and should be completed later this year. Is the schedule that I understand. You can still add solar to your property if you're a Division of Power customer. It's just going to impact those financials a little bit, the fact that the meter can't run backward. So just something to be aware of. We're also working with our building and zoning services to try to streamline application process, particularly for our residents who live in a historic district. Some people are concerned, maybe I live in Durham Village or Victorian Village or Italian Village, or there are actually a bunch of historic districts. I didn't realize how many there were until we started engaging on this. Or maybe you have an HOA, but we're trying to do everything that we can to support and make sure people have the right information. And we know that people in these historic districts have already been able to obtain solar in the past, and it makes the process a lot easier if you are in a historic district. If you can put the panels on a secondary structure or have them hidden from the street view, kind of like what Brian was talking about with his project. They will entertain projects where you can see the panels, but it's just a little bit more difficult to get approval, and it would just depend on the particular review commission and historic commission to get those through. But we are trying to engage with them and make sure that they're aware that we're trying to push this effort and bring more people into the solar PV co-op, so they're aware, and they've been very helpful in assisting us with understanding how to best convey the information if you do live in a historic district. So it's not totally ruled out. Solar United Neighbors also helps with getting interconnection approval with the utilities. And finally, at the end of the co-op, when your project is completely developed, you'll get an individual proposal from an RFP, which is a request for proposal. And right now, I believe we have 61 official members. I think it's a little bit higher than that. That was the last number that I saw. But you're basically getting bulk pricing because the installer is getting, 61 projects instead of just one. So we tend to see 10 to 20% savings versus doing a project all on your own. And it can make sense up to about 30 kW. So small businesses are also welcome to participate, but once the array size is beyond 30 kW, they could probably get better pricing on their own. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to show everybody, this is where the program lives on the City of Columbus website. It's on the Sustainable Steps website. That's what you look for. You can click on that. And again, we wanted to host it somewhere on the city site just so it has, so people feel more comfortable that the City of Columbus is in fact endorsing this program and knowing that it's a legitimate venture. Next slide. So when you click on that solar page, it will take you to the Solar United Neighbors Columbus Solar Co-op to sign up. And you can click that Join the Co-op button to register and include all of your information. And there's a lot of really good information on the Solar United Neighbors website. They have some really good links to YouTube videos if anybody's interested in learning more details. They get into a lot of detail about the components of the system. So if you're an engineer, you might find some of that really interesting. But yeah, there's just a lot of good resources. They have a lot of financial calculation models that you can take a look at. Information about what average system sizes are. I think it's somewhere around 4 or 5 kW for a typical household. And then you can get an idea of how much that will cost. I think the number that they use is like $2.52 per watt to give you just a very basic idea of what you could expect to pay if you know what system size you need. Next slide. And then again, just some co-branding between Solar United Neighbors and the Sustainable Steps program. We also are engaging with all of the partners. You can see the logos at the bottom there. So they're trying to help us get the word out, because the more members that we have, the bigger our co-op becomes, the better discount each participant can receive when they do sign a contract to put the panels onto their house. So Green Energy Ohio, I think we already talked about Impact a little bit. Drive Electric Ohio, it goes hand in hand with their efforts to promote electric vehicles. So you may have seen messaging about this from a number of different areas, and we hope that you'll join. This time, we do think that we'll be doing more to promote solar panel adoption in the future. I would love it if this co-op turns out to be a success. If we could run another one next year, but it just kind of depends. We're in too early of a stage to say if this will be something that we continue to offer. Next slide. Yeah, so just a bigger view of some of the other partners. Ohio Environmental Council has been trying to help us get the word out. Green Energy Ohio, Clean Fuels Ohio, and Sierra Club actually, I think, has been promoting us, but I don't see them on here. And so I'll end with some of the goals that the city has for this particular co-op. We wanted to have 100 people sign up. And of those, we were hoping to get 40 new arrays installed at about 5 kW each. So that would result in 200 kW of new solar distributed energy in our community, and $500,000 of local investment in the PV technology. So I've included my assumptions there. And just want to reiterate again, when you buy in bulk, you're likely to get 10 to 20% better pricing than you would on your own. So there's a huge incentive to participate. You can join, there's no obligation to go through with it. You know, you can leave if you don't like the final proposal that you end up getting. But now is a really great time. I mean, interest rates are just absolute rock bottom. They're probably going to be going up here soon. So it's a really good time. But if you don't do it now, it'd be also fine with the city if you decide to do it in the future. And then at the bottom, if we did have 40 new arrays at 5 kW each, over 25 years, which we know the panels will last for longer than that, but over 25 years, it's going to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 5,500 tons. So reduces air pollution from carbon-based fuels, reduces, greenhouse gases, and helps to mitigate climate change. So that's what we're hoping to achieve. There's a ton of information here, and I will, looks like I don't see any new questions, but now if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Great, thanks, Samantha. So while people are thinking about questions, so it goes until August 31st. If I'm interested, let's say I'm a homeowner and I am interested in doing this, I go to the website and there's a spot there that says join now. I click on that. I imagine I just fill out my information, who I am, where I live, etc. Does that mean now I'm part of the co-op? And then if I am part of the co-op, I'll be part of that process of choosing a installer. And then let's say like something happens and I'm not able to continue on with the co-op, I could drop out and there won't be any penalties or anything like that. Is that correct?
That's correct. And there's no cost to participate. And you can, change your mind at any time. It's not until you actually sign the final agreement with the selected installer that you'd be under any type of obligation.
Very cool. It does look like we have a question about batteries. So about how much more does it cost to install batteries with the solar panels? And I'm going to throw on another kind of another question onto that. Does the city's co-op, does that include the batteries?
So no, it can include, if you would like to include the batteries, they can definitely evaluate that and make that a part of the proposal. Batteries will typically double the cost of a project. So that's something to be aware of. So you're going to have double, the payback, double the cost. We do see a lot of battery storage going in. It does make a difference for people who maybe they have a lot of power outages, because as Brian was saying, if you have solar panels, when the power goes out, they will stop producing, because we have to be careful not to electrocute any linemen out on the grid making repairs. But if you have a battery system, you won't lose power. You'll be able to use power off of your batteries, and it'll send the power to the batteries and then to the house rather than back to the grid. And a lot of people with electric vehicles also like to have this benefit of battery backup. That way they could still power their EV even in the event of a power outage. And then the other thing was some people with specialized medical equipment that they need backup power will opt to install the batteries just to have that reliability.
Right. And then do you know like when an installer is going to be chosen, or what's the timeline for that process?
So they've actually already got the RFP out. It's been out for a couple of weeks. They won't finalize the RFP review committee until the co-op has closed. So that'll be again at the end of August. And at that point, the selection committee will start interviewing and reviewing proposals and just make a determination. Probably, I would say a couple weeks into September is what we were planning.
Very cool. So I don't see any more questions. So our participants might be questioned out at this point.
I would like to just add one real quick
please.
thing. Someone, if you're thinking about chopping down trees in order to put up solar panels, I would advise against that. The benefits of trees will outweigh the benefits of solar panels. So I didn't take out any trees when I did my project, and it's just a caution. Don't chop down a tree in order to put a solar panel in your house.
Yeah, it's good. It's good advice, and totally agree with that. You know, trees in the summertime provide shade, which reduces your utility bills, provides habitat, soaks up carbon, can increase property values, just all sorts of benefits with trees. So, but if you do have solar panels and you're thinking about planting a tree, keep that in mind of where you're going to plant the tree.
Right.
So if it does grow up, it's not going to block out your solar panels. Yeah, excellent point, Brian.
Yeah, we're definitely not advocating to get rid of any of the tree cover, but that's up to individuals, and they'll have to weigh the pros and cons. And Solar United Neighbors doesn't advocate for that either. So.
It brings up a really good point that, you know, when we're combating climate change, that it is going to take obviously a multiple of actions and many tools in the toolbox, as they say, to do that. And so solar is one of those tools that we can use for that. Looks like we have a few minutes left. We do have, I see the chat feature, it's kind of lighting up here. So somebody says, after selection process, how soon would the installers begin? Would it be this fall or winter, or into next year?
Yeah, the timeline that we have should allow for installations to be completed by the end of this year. But again, it just depends on who is selected and how large and how many projects there are. But we think it's possible for everyone to be complete by the end of this year. That way you can take the tax credit for 2021.
That'd be great. And then do you know, somebody asked, this might be good information to go out to local neighborhood associations. I'm also thinking about like homeowners associations as well. Is there any effort to reach those channels?
Yeah, so it's I don't have any direct connection with like a homeowners association group at this point. I did have a resident reach out with concerns that their HOA might not allow for it. And I responded that I'd be happy to speak with them and see if we could do something where, similar to what we do with the historic neighborhoods, where try to put it on a secondary structure or try to hide it from the street, or put it on a flat roof where it's just not visible from the main street view. Or, if there's a ground mount space where it's, again, out of view, would they be more open to that? Because again, it does increase the property value. And makes the financials for the homeowner, makes the property more valuable and attractive in the future if they would sell it. So that's probably a newer area for us to be venturing into. And I'd say where our first foray is trying to work with just the historic district commissions.
Yeah, and I think also, didn't we emailed the area commissions about this project? I can't remember how many area commissions that we have. We do have a good number. Done a lot of social media around it. We also have 2 information workshops coming up. And Sam, I don't remember maybe you have those dates.
Yeah. So we'll have one July 15th. I believe it's a Thursday. And that one's going to be at Impact Community Action, which is on the south side. I don't have the address memorized yet, I don't think. But that's at 7 p.m. on a Thursday, July 15th. And then the other one is going to be at Whetstone Community Center, which is in Clintonville on North High Street. That is July 28th. I want to say it's a Wednesday at 6:45 p.m.
Great. Looks like some folks have mentioned some homeowners associations, so I'll copy those and send those to you. And then I think that might be all the questions that we have. So with that, I do want to thank everybody for taking the time, and I especially want to thank our guests, Samantha and Brian, for taking time out of their day to let us know about their experience and what's going on in Columbus regarding solar. If you have questions, Samantha, what is your email address? Not to put you on the spot here.
It's okay. It's srrichey, RICHEY at columbus.gov.
Great. And if folks, if you didn't get that, or if you forget it, you can always email GreenSpot at columbus.gov and we'll get it to you that way. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop recording and end the meeting. So thanks everybody for your time.
Thank you, everybody.